As an online fitness coach, speed and volume is going to be your best fucking friend if you want to scale your business and have a greater impact. Now, speed and volume come in many factors. However, conversations is what's needed to book calls, and calls is what needs to sell clients, and having clients is what is needed to have an impact, because it's really hard to have an impact when you aren't helping anyone. So, one of the first things I do with my guys when they sign up is we jump on a call and we look at what they're currently doing, how we're booking calls, how we're having conversations, how we're signing up clients, the whole process, etc. One of the first things that we look at is the volume of conversations that they're having. Personally, we're getting as high as 300 conversations per day. I know coaches that are doing 500. I also know coaches that are doing well over 1,000 conversations per day. And knowing that really resets the expectation of what is required to hit some of these numbers that some of these guys are hitting. Now, a lot of the times when I jump on with these coaches, it's coaches that are doing £1,000 a month, £2,000 a month, £6,000 a month, but not to the level where they want to get to. And it's immediately obvious from the amount of volume of conversations that they're having. There's a guy that I've been working with for a few months now who used to work with another mentorship that I ironically used to work with as well years ago. And he was, I think, doing about £1,900, £2,000 a month. He'd been with them for about 2 years, but he kind of stagnated. And the first thing that we looked when we jumped on a call, I said, the conversations that you're having, where are they being tracked? How many do we think that we're having per day? And the answer was just, I don't know, because we're not tracking it. The guy had a VA, still does have a VA. So the first thing that I said was, here's a tracker. What I want you to do is I want you to say to this VA is, just do what you normally do, but just track how many conversations you have per day, track how many people reply, track how many calls you offer to people, track how many say yes, and track how many say no. And we realized within a week that this VA, albeit was working 2 hours per day, was having one conversation, was starting one new conversation per day. Now, going back to the earlier point of us having 300 fucking conversations per day and some coaches having 1,000 plus conversations per day, 2 new conversations per day isn't going to get you very far. In knowing that though, I thought that, listen, dude, if you fucking made $2,000 a month for having 2 conversations per day, you must be awesome. Because that's a pretty fucking mean feat. Which is the first point of, like, if you're not tracking data, how do you know if somebody's performing or not, especially when they're on the other side of the fucking planet? Beyond that though, all that we did was we said, dude, can you have 10 minimum conversations per day? And here's a checklist of how you're going to start them. But if we can max it and hit 20, that would be amazing. Now, all of a sudden, that client has went from 2K per month to 5K per month. Purely for having more conversations. And when you realize that, the game just totally fucking changes. The game is no longer, what do I need to do to acquire more clients? How do I sign more people up? It's how do I have more of that? How do I start more conversations? Because I have a process here that if I have 20 conversations, I take on one client. How do I have 40 conversations? How do I have 60, 80, 100, 1,000 conversations per day? And because of that, that client now runs ads that we've set up, which just brings him more conversations per day. And guess what? Month on month, he's making more money, he's making progress. He's looking at hiring a coach now, all through volume. Now, the second component of this, like I mentioned, was speed. If this client had turned around and said, sounds good, give me a month to find out all this data from the appointment center, let me implement this tomorrow or the day after, because tomorrow never fucking exists, then we wouldn't be here right now. Speed is how quick we take the information that most people have as well and implement it. That's the difference maker. Most people have the information, most people take forever to implement it, if ever fucking implement it. But this client implemented it with speed. And one of the biggest factors for somebody going from a conversation to a booked call to a sale is the speed at which you fucking communicate with them. If you take an hour, 6 hours, a day to respond to somebody, the likelihood that 1, that person will reply past that, 2, book a call, 3, fucking show up to the call is increasingly less and less and less. But if you can have a conversation with somebody in 20 minutes, 5, 6 messages inside the DMs, offer the call, get the booked on for the day after, the likelihood that person signing up is way, way bigger. And all that comes down to is just speed. But when you bring the two of them together, which is what the big boys do, which is what you have to do, which is let's have the volume and chuck the speed of it on top, great things happen. There's another guy that I've just started working with where I think a month and like 3 days into the whole process, this guy was struggling. Wants to transition fully online, hasn't been able to, been doing this about 2 years, very, very low price point, nobody really signing up, changed the price point, increased it like double to what he was charging before essentially. Never done a sales call in his life. Now he's done 4 sales calls, 2 have signed up, and they're both on 6-month contracts. And all that comes down to is just speed and volume. He's went from having 0 essentially conversations per day to 10 to sometimes 15 he's tracking. And the speed in which that he sends over his call recordings so I can give him some feedback has allowed him to get better, so that by the 3rd and 4th call he signed up both those people. The first call he had was awful, it was fucking abysmal because he's never done a fucking sales call in his life, but hey, it was a lot better than my fucking first sales call. I'll tell you that for a fact. I wish I had a recording of it. It was awful, but the fact that he sent me it across in a timely manner means that I could get him that feedback, which means he went into the second call, he took it that one extra step further. It wasn't enough to push that person across the line, but it was better. We then give him feedback on that. He then comes into his 3rd call, he closes it, comes into the 4th call, closes it. Guy's on a roll. I'm basically paid for at this point, which is a fucking great place for somebody to be. But all it comes down to is the volume that we're putting into it and the speed at which we're implementing that. If we have volume there, but we're taking forever to implement on that, things aren't happening at pace, then you'll get left behind, it won't even matter. But when we bring the both of them together and we have the speed and we have the volume, like I say, that's where great things happen. And that's where real change is made as well, is speed and volume. If you take no lesson from this last week, please take this one. Your best friend as an online fitness coach is speed and volume in every single dimension. From when you are having conversations to when you are coaching clients to where you are working with a mentorship and they're trying to ask you to implement this thing and you're taking fucking 6 weeks to do it. Speed and volume will get you way further than everything. Here's a quick heads up. I worked with a mentorship for 8 months and went from 0 online to £8,000 per month online in 8 months. They told me to have 100 follows per day, people that I would go out and follow. I was doing 250 to 300. They were saying, send 5-6 messages per day. I was sending 30-40 messages per day. The volume and speed and the urgency that was there made it way quicker to get to where I want to be. So much that people that had done it for way longer weren't at that point. But because I've implemented so much fucking quicker and in a higher volume, I could make up for the lack of time and experience that I had. If you're not going where you want to be right now, trust me, doing more will not push you further back. Doing it quicker and implementing it faster will also not push you any further back. It will only ever push you forward. Speed and volume is the lesson today.